Hi there, it's Matthew Lampros. I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to speak with you all again. I'm grateful to be engaged with you guys and have you as a client and have you as people that I get to help. I'm always very anxious to make sure that my help is actual help. And so you'll see towards the end of this, there's ways to contact me if you have any questions about this or if you need some help or some coaching. I would be very happy to help you out, answer questions, make sure you get off your feet on this. So let's go ahead and get started. But remember, if you have any questions at all, this isn't just a video. I actually am here to help. So the topic today is working independently. So that's for this month. This is whether you are with a franchise or a company store. This is whether you are in maintenance sales or project sales. This is whether you work at home or work in the office. More and more and more, the busier your company is, the busier you are, you'll find that you're working less and less in a team. Not that you don't have a team, but a lot of what you have to do you have to rely on yourself to get it done. And so I think this topic is appropriate. I'm glad that ABM selected this as something to talk about. What you'll see here is I'm going to use the theme of the bumblebee. We have the honeycomb for the 6 key things that you have to think about. And I have some bees that we've drawn. I happen to be in the great state of Utah and it's July where I am, and we have July is a great month for us because we not only get the 4th of July, but we get our state holiday, which is July 24th, where we celebrate the coming of the pioneers into the state. And so there's fireworks and all kinds of stuff, but Utah is the beehive state. And so I'm surrounded with that idea a lot. And as I thought about what it takes to be successful working independently, the thought of the bees kept coming up. And I hope that idea will stick. Because really, you do have to kind of be like a bumblebee. The number one asset you can have for yourself in being self-driven, self-motivated, self-managed is that you have routines. Otherwise, things are going to get dropped. So what I'm going to do is take that honeycomb, and I'm going to put it in this single page that you see here. This is a one-pager that will have everything that you need on it that you can use to remember everything that was talked about in this video. The sales training team, William Crowell, and those folks will have a copy of this, so you can get a copy of this one-pager. This is something maybe you can hang up so you can remember these 6 things that you've got to consistently work on. And I would recommend that you somehow get a copy of this, either print it from the screen or get it from William Crowell or others, because these are things you've got to remember. It's good to have this hanging up in your office so you can remember these 6 key things. So the 6 key things that you have to have as routines are discipline, being organized, having a routine around knowing how to multitask, using persistence, actually practicing, which we'll talk about, and of course communication. So I'm just going to go ahead and go in each one of these 6 things and give you kind of the highlight of what it takes to be successful. So of course we'll start with discipline. Now discipline is the heart of all of this, because if you need a routine, if routine based, it's discipline based. Discipline means sticking to the routines that you have, building habits. And so what I want you to do, what I want you to think about as you work on these key things, if you're not disciplined, if you don't have these week, if you're not consistently doing these things, it's going to be hard to work on your own, and it's probably going to be less effective than if you were in a team and people were sitting next to you and you're constantly checking in with each other. So as you're working on discipline, the key thing I want you to do is I want you to watch for ruts and getting off track. Make sure that you don't go too long without sticking to a routine, or make sure that you don't go too long with not hitting your numbers. Make sure that you don't go too long without checking in. Those are the key things that you should notice that say, hey, I'm not as disciplined as I need to right now. When you notice yourself get in a rut, when you notice yourself get off track, that's okay. But go work with somebody to get back on track. You know, help each other, encourage each other, and remember that if you have the mindset of discipline, you can go wrong a little bit, and having a bad day is sort of like getting good data. What caused the day to get off? Did I have a lot of fire drills? Did I not sleep well? Was I frustrated because I lost the deal? What were the things that caused me to get off track or get in a rut? And use that information to help you get back on track. And that's, again, really what discipline means. It means not that you never get off track, but that you find a way to get back on track. So as you work on discipline, focus on, am I disciplined? And if not, why? And how do I turn that into good data so that I can become disciplined? The next part of the honeycomb is being organized. My favorite tool for organization is a book by David Allen called Getting Things Done. I couldn't recommend more highly that you pick up that book and that you read it. It's kind of funny how many people I know that own the book but have never read it. So you've got to be organized enough not only to get the book but to actually read it. The basic concept in getting things done, there is a lot is said, but here's the basic concept. Everything that you have to do should be written down and broken down into steps. So we talked about this in our time management sales summit, but take a piece of paper, whether it's on your computer or an actual piece of paper, write the name of the project, and then write each step that you have to go through to get it done. And a step might be very simple, like calling Bob or checking in with the boss. It could be more complicated, like having a rough draft or dry run meeting, where you're dry running the meeting that you're going to have with Bob before you actually have it. But write every step down and then work one step at a time. That way, when you have a project that you're working, if you have to stop and put it down, you'll know where you were and what you did next. The number one thing that stops people from being good at time management and good at being productive, particularly when they don't have someone looking over their shoulders, is that they take a tremendous amount of time on projects figuring out where I was and what's next. So if you eliminate that idea of, okay, I know I need to work on this project, where was I, what's the next step? You just eliminate that because you just follow your list. Then you're saving yourself a tremendous amount of time. You're a very organized person, and you should get through projects a lot quicker without having someone necessarily there. The next step, of course, then, is multitasking. I'm going to take from our time management sales summit that we did some months ago. I would encourage you to watch that if you haven't watched already. But when people tell you to multitask, being good at multitask doesn't actually mean at the same time. What it means is you have a lot of tasks that you have to complete, and they're scheduled, so you can get a lot of things done each day. So make sure that all of the tasks that you have to get done that are priorities for the day are on your calendar, and you're going to spend time on them. So if they're on your calendar and then you go to your project list because you're organized and it says here are the next steps, you just start working the steps until your calendar tells you, okay, it's time to check email, okay, it's time to get ready for the meeting, okay, we have a sales summit coming up, we've got a quarterly discussion. Everything that your calendar tells you to do, you should do, and you should include in that the idea that each one of these projects, and you can see I like to color code them so that I know what my day looks like, is on your calendar. Getting things done would encourage you to do that. I encourage you to do that. And that's the key for multitasking. Having a lot of things to do on your calendar. And then the last point here would be that email is the number one killer of your time. Most people spend about 40% of their time on email. So if your phone's buzzing and you have it beep whenever you get an email, or your computer beeps whenever you get an email, you're going to stop your project and you have this little addictive thing where you stop and you go check your email. I got it. I understand it. So many people do it, but I would encourage you to stop doing that because that's not multitasking. That's multi-reacting. Put your email down for the period that you're working on a project. Look, if you have to check it every 30 minutes, fine. But I don't think anything's going to come up that if you wait 30 minutes is going to be a disaster. So you've got to sort of get that out of your head. And in order to be good at getting a lot of things done, you've got to have one thing at a time that you're working on. The next thing is persistence. I think persistence is a lost art that I think people a long time ago used to be great at, and we're not so good at it anymore. That's been my theory for a long time. Jerry Seinfeld has a new series, which is on the web, called Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. I would recommend it because it's a wonderful series. If you like cars like I do, you get to see these great cars, and then he sort of interviews people or does sort of like a talk show. It's great. Anyway, in one of them, he was talking to Chris Rock, and they were talking about kids these days. And Jerry Seinfeld says, except for the skateboarders, I look at those skateboarders and I think they're going to make it in life, which I thought was really interesting because that's not necessarily what people think when they see a young man on a skateboard. They don't think, wow, there's someone who's going to win. But his point was, as you watch this video, in order to be good at skateboarding, you have to be persistent. You have to fail a lot and keep trying and keep trying and keep trying. One of my personal mottos is fall down 7 times, stand up 8. It's an old Japanese proverb, but it's something that I try to remember all the time. You can't be successful unless you keep standing up. And watch this kid. Watch when he finally gets it. Look how proud he is. It's fantastic. Persistence is a quality that you need to develop, and it does take a long time in order for you to be good at it. But it is, I think, an old skill that is worth bringing back, worth learning more about, because it does make you more successful. So there are 8 attributes to persistence, which I'll cover here, and I would like you to think about them. The first attribute is what is called definitive purpose, or knowing what your plan is, having an idea of what you want to do, being clear about what you want. You got to have strong motive forces to be able to overcome these obstacles that you're going to face, and so you really have to know what you want. And then the second one comes along right with that, which is desire. So persistence becomes easier no matter what obstacle you face if you have this intense desire. So work on desire. Make sure what you're trying to accomplish is something that you really want. Being self-reliant means that you believe in your ability to accomplish a plan. You can do it. You know this is something that you're capable of. You've drawn it out, and it seems doable. Then you've got to have a plan. They call it definiteness of plans, but basically being organized, having a plan that you know is going to work. Then having knowledge, the know-how to be able to accomplish something. I would say both having a clear plan and having know-how is sort of comes from getting things done, GTD. Putting everything on paper so that you know exactly what it's going to take is part of being persistent, and you now know how to do it. You know the steps. It seems less daunting, and you can accomplish it. You're going to have to do cooperation, which really is a form of persuasion. Particularly if you're working independently, you've got to find a way to persuade people that don't necessarily work for you or have a reason to help. Persuasion is probably the word I'd use for getting outside help or getting the customers to cooperate. Leadership is probably what I would say for getting people internally to cooperate. So you've got to work on that skill. In order to be persistent, you need people to help you. You need people to get behind your plan. And persuasion and leadership is how you do it. Then the last two are willpower, which is obvious, but you just can't give up. That's kind of the definition of persistence. Keep going, keep going, keep going. That comes from having a purpose, having desire, believing in yourself, having a clear plan. But you've got to be able to push through these things. And it's okay, like we talked about with having a routine, it's okay to get off track. But when you get off track or when you get in a rut, you got to go back and look at why so that you can solve how to get back on track and quit falling off track. And the last thing is habit or routine. So persistence is really the direct result of a habit. You start getting in a habit to keep your calendar up to date, or to communicate clearly, or to use the GTD or other time management systems, and that becomes persistence because you're doing it on a regular basis. The mind absorbs and becomes part of the daily experiences on which it feeds. So the more you do something daily, the more your mind feeds on that, the more you become persistent. Okay, then there's only 2 more. One is practice, and if you've watched the webinars or any of the teaching that I've done on prospecting, I'll use that as the example. So, I guess the last thing you want to do with any project that you have that you do on a routine basis is you want to fail, or you want to do it wrong repeatedly. There are steps that you have to go through in order to be successful, and prospecting is a perfect, cold calling, prospecting is a perfect example of that. You can do it wrong, or you can do it slightly wrong, and then it's not working for you. So what I would encourage you to do is have benchmarks. Like, we all know we should get 5 to 8 meetings a week. Well, in cold calling, we know there are 3 key things we got to look for. Did 10 to 15% of the people that I called picked up the phone? Did I get to talk to the person I want to talk to 10 to 15% of the time? Did 80% of the people that I did end up talking to agree to have me come out to a meeting? And did 75% of those meetings show up or not cancel or not move the meeting without rescheduling it? Check for those 3 things, and you've got other things, 5 to 8 meetings, the number of action plans that they need to be signed, the number of deals that need to be done. Have some benchmarks, and then practice. Figure out if you're doing the things that it takes to get those. So if you're not at your numbers, go back and look at the specific steps. And for cold calling in particular, there are 4 things. And check yourself, or have your manager check you, or check each other as peers. Hey, could you come in and listen to me for an hour, and here are the 4 things I want you to check while I'm cold calling. Did I make 25 calls an hour? Did I use the clutch? Meaning, did I acknowledge the interruption, give my answer, and then ask for time before I stopped talking? Every time. Was I date heavy? Meaning, did I mention days that they could meet with me as the major part of my response, or was I heavy in an answer about who ABM is and what we could do for people? I need to be date heavy. Help me get there. And the last thing is, am I responding to every question they ask me on the phone as if what they really were saying is, hey, you're interrupting me. What is this about? Why are you bothering me? Am I doing those 4 things? And if you'll practice that, you get really good at it, you hit those benchmarks. If you don't practice that, you can get off pace, you can get in a rut, you don't have a habit, you don't have a routine, and it's much harder to work independently, and it's much harder to be as successful as you want to be. So it's 15, 80%. That's a little hard to see, so I'll make that better. 80% and 75%. 15% of the people pick up, 80% say yes, 75 end up showing. Okay? And then the last thing, and by the way, that's all in our getting appointments and prospecting sales summits. The last thing that we want to talk about is communication. If you're working independently, there are times when it's better to not use email. You're going to use email a lot, but when something is very important, I would encourage you to either use the phone so you can talk to that person in live, or go see them. Now, you don't want to do that all the time, but don't do everything on email. Don't do everything on text. Don't do everything on instant messaging. Those things have a time and a place, but in order to have a routine where you're doing everything you can to be successful at working independently, one of the things you should be doing is picking up the phone when you can, instead of sending an email. If it doesn't happen to have to happen on email, pick up the phone. If you can go knock on someone's door and say, hey, do you have a second, and talk it through, you're going to be much more successful working independently than if you're always just sending email. Hey, I hope you become really successful in everything that you're trying to do. I know there's a lot of forces that are working against all of us. One of them that I think ABM wants to address, and rightly so, is this idea that we're working more and more independently as people get busier and busier. These are 6 things, 6 routines that I know can help. I'm excited that they'll be able to help you. Like I said, on this piece of paper, you have my name and my email and my phone number. 801-983-5900 is my phone number, and Matthew@Celemental.com is my email address. If you have any questions whatsoever, or need a refresher in this or anything like that, contact me. I'm going to be very happy to help. My goal is to give you something that works tomorrow. So try some of these things. Don't let yourself get down if you fall in a rut or get off of your plan. Get back on plan using these 6 things, and I guarantee that you'll find more and more success as you work independently with fewer and fewer people. Okay, good luck. Let me know if I can help. Take care.